Be careful with the English language and how people speak with you. There's one particular topic that I want to discuss because I already got the video, The Secret Language of Witches. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but I want you to go to Proverbs 18. This is Proverbs 18. And I want you to see this now. I want you to go to verse 21. Look at what it says now. Look at this, okay? It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So life and death are in the power of the tongue. And you got to remember that in John chapter 6, Jesus said, every word I say is spirit. Okay, that means when people talk, it's not just words. There is spirit behind it. There is life or death behind it. And you have to pay attention to that. I want you to go to Proverbs 15 real quick. I want you to see this now. Proverbs 15 verse 4. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit. And this is what I want to talk about. There is a breach in the spirit that has been happening to millions of people, but they don't understand that Satan has designed language and communication. He's corrupted it at its core when people talk with each other. Now that again is the secret language of witches. You want to watch that video, but just hear me out for a moment. You ever notice that when people talk to you, when they're speaking about matters that don't even involve you, they'll use you as the example? You have to pay attention to that, okay? You'll be on the phone and you'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, and then I had to talk to my boss today because people ain't coming into work because and you'll be sick. Like, and you know, you get the virus and now you're sick and you're at home and you don't know what to do. And before you know it, you lose your job and now you're in depression. And you know what I mean? Why are you in agreement with them speaking that over your life? And because I'll tell you how it goes under the radar, is because you're not realizing, because it's in a third person because they're explaining it in a third person view, you're like, oh, well, they're not actually talking about me, but they're saying you or your when they're saying it. And if they're doing that by the power of word, they're speaking that over you or your family or your children. I mean, you could be on the phone with somebody and be like, and they'll just be talking about, let's say, diseases and stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, you know, and when you get sick and you get a fever and you are bedridden, I'm telling you, there is some danger in that. And you're just like, yeah. Wait a minute, why would you say and when you get sick and when you get bedridden? You ever notice with commercials and how they speak, they divine that. They want to use encampments and incantations and the curse of speaking death over people. And if you don't cast it down, if you don't reject it, then you're receiving it. I'm telling you, this is so real. Some of y'all like, what do you, man of God, what are you talking about? Okay, listen, I'm going to break it down one more time. Now, we ain't on the dinner table, so we ain't at the dinner table. This should have taken an hour. So when people are talking to you, if they're speaking about bad things and they're not referring to you directly, watch out when they use you as an example indirectly. It happens to millions of conversations every single day. And if you pay attention to it, you have to cut people off. Just be honest with them. Say, hey, look, I'm not offended, but don't use me as the example. Don't use my child as the example. Don't use my husband or wife as the example. Don't do that. Because when people talk nowadays, they use you as the example when they're talking to you. They be like, you know, when your wife, you know, and someone might be having a conversation about adultery. And they'll be talking and be like, yeah, you know, your wife cheats on you. And now you're sitting there and you're like, wait, pause. Why would you say that? Why would you say when my wife cheats on me? Don't use me as the example. Just be polite with people and cut them off. You have to. You have to. You cannot be the nice guy and let it slide because you don't want to offend people. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of people. They're going to be offended when you cut them off and correct them. But I don't care. Okay, and it's usually the unclean spirit that's operating off of their tongue. That's the one doing it anyways. That's going to be the one that makes them offended with you anyways. But it's better you explain to them, say, look, I believe that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and you keep using me as the example when you're speaking about sickness, or you're speaking about this, or you're speaking about that. Can you stop doing that? And even when you ask them to stop, watch. A lot of them will continue to do it because they've been trained up by Satan to be diviners. Let me tell you something, especially in America, it's all over the UK, but the people have been trained to be diviners for the devil, to speak death over people. And they're doing it, most of them are doing it innocent. So don't be offended with them. Don't take it personal. They have been trained in which language and they didn't even know it. Okay, so that's a big one. That's number one. So the next time you're on the phone and you're like,
you see it on the TV, they got a new medication for when you're depressed.
Yeah.
And you know when depression hits you,
be like, excuse me.
What?
Can you please stop using my name as the example? Can you stop saying you when you're talking about that particular topic?
No, I'm not really talking about
you. I know you're not meaning me. You're referring to someone else. Stop saying you. Okay, cool. Continue talking.
So like I was saying about the medication, when you're depressed and when you feel suicidal, it's going to be there for you. Well,
Can you please stop? You know what I'm saying? So, saints, put your foot down and stop allowing people to divine on you. Just correct them with love. And instead of saying you, say a man, a woman, or one. Let's say, when a man gets sick and has to be in a hospital, instead of them saying, when you're sick and you go to the hospital, stop saying you and your. Stop using me or my family or my beloved brothers and sisters in the Lord as the example, and just say a man or a woman. That way it falls on a dead ground. It doesn't prosper. That unclean word doesn't prosper. Does that make sense? So that's how you can correct them, is tell them to use a man or a woman instead of saying you. Pretty simple. And if they got a problem with it, tell them the conversation is over. It's that simple. Number